It happened last year. A full year has passed, and I finally calmed down enough to pull the events together into a coherent story. It all began at the end of October. It was a Friday. I'd been out drinking with colleagues, hopping from bar to bar, and I was in high spirits. Naturally, I missed the last train, so the four of us headed toward a capsule hotel. A capsule hotel is a uniquely Japanese type of hotel featuring many small bed-sized pods instead of traditional rooms. They are very common for workers who miss their trains after a night of drinking. When we arrived at the reception desk, it turned out there were only 2 spots left. There was nothing to be done. As the senior member of the group, I decided to give up my spot to the younger guys, and my colleague Hiroshi, whose taxi fare home was about as expensive as mine, did the same. We parted ways outside the hotel. Hiroshi headed toward the station to hail a cab, while I decided to call another capsule hotel nearby. Fortunately, they had a vacancy. I hung up and started walking in that direction. I hadn't walked more than 10 meters from the entrance of the first hotel. Suddenly, and I don't know why, I just froze in my tracks. 2 or 3 seconds later, right in front of me, about 3 meters away, a man fell from the sky. There was a dull, wet sound, and a man landed on the asphalt, lying on his back. He didn't move. When you find yourself in a situation that your mind simply cannot comprehend, your thoughts just shut off. I think I stood there paralyzed for about a minute. Finally, coming to my senses, I forced out the words, "Are you okay?" But as soon as I took a step closer, I realized, this is it. It's over. I've stumbled into something horrible. The position of his head was unnatural. It was twisted at a right angle, and the right side of his skull was literally crushed inward. Blood was gushing from his nose. He looked to be about 50. Just an average-looking middle-aged man, the kind you see by the thousands. He was wearing a yukata from the capsule hotel. A yukata is a casual, light cotton kimono. Most capsule hotels provide them for guests to wear as pajamas while inside the facility. I ran back to the hotel, called the manager, and together we examined the body. Then came the ambulance, the police, the interrogations. They held me for nearly 2 hours. It turned out he really was a guest at the hotel. They found an open window in the 3rd floor dining area. In the end, they ruled me a simple witness. After checking my ID and workplace, they let me go. It was 4 a.m. by then. There was no point in checking into a hotel, so I went to a 24-hour manga cafe to try and nap, but sleep wouldn't come. My eyes were practically bulging out of my head, and I didn't close them for a single second until morning. The horrific dream started that very night. I'm standing in pitch darkness. Then, with that same crunching sound, that man falls in front of me. He slowly stands up, his head twitching from side to side, and he starts walking toward me. I want to run, but my body is paralyzed. He walks right up to me, sneers with a disgusting grin, and embraces me. In that moment, we both plummet into a deep, bottomless abyss. I wake up the moment we fall. If I fell back asleep, it would repeat. In one night, I saw that dream 5 or 6 times. This continued every single night. At first, I was terrified, but you get used to fear quickly. What was worse was that sleep had become a form of torture. I was afraid to close my eyes. Even if I dozed off on the train, the dream returned. I didn't have a second of peace. By Wednesday of the following week, my colleague Kento said, "Let's go for a drink today." He'd noticed I was getting paler by the day and was worried about my health. I didn't dare tell him about the dreams. I just said I wasn't sleeping well. "Well then, drink enough to pass out cold," Kento advised. I drank until I blacked out. I went home and slept like the dead. Surprisingly, there were no dreams. From that day on, I started drinking every evening. The hangovers were brutal, but they were nothing compared to the nightmare. It couldn't last. Problems started at work. I I was constantly late, and during the day, instead of meeting clients, I'd hide out in saunas trying to sober up. My boss gave me a severe reprimand, so I quit drinking. The dreams returned the very next second. I was on the verge of a breakdown. I was seriously considering seeing a psychiatrist. A week after I quit drinking, I was on my way to meet a client and drifted off on the train. Darkness again. I'm standing alone. Here he comes, I thought. But this time the dream was different. The man, who usually twitched and smirked, was standing perfectly still. His head was still slumped to the side, but his eyes were wide open and filled with pure rage. He gritted his teeth and didn't take a single step. Then he opened his mouth and began to make a strange sound. Suddenly, I was jolted awake by someone calling me. "Hey, kid! Hey!" An unfamiliar old man was shaking my shoulder. He looked grumpy and strict. My first thought was that I must have been snoring and he was going to scold me. "I'm so sorry," I muttered. The old man chuckled. "Don't talk nonsense. I need to tell you something. Get off at the next station." I was taken aback, but for some reason I obediently answered, "Okay," and followed him out. Once on the platform, I remembered my client and hastily called to cancel the meeting. Meanwhile, the old man walked confidently toward a cafe near the station. "Let's rest over there," he said. We went in. I ordered a coffee. He ordered coffee and sandwiches. As soon as the waiter left, the old man looked me straight in the eye. "Listen, kid, you're about to die. You can feel it yourself, can't you?" Tears suddenly burst from my eyes. I just sat there sobbing and nodding. "Yes." I told him everything that had happened. The old man listened in silence, calmly chewing his sandwich. When he finished, he said, "We're going to my house. It's a bit of a trek, so call off work." I called the office, lied that I'd fallen ill on the way and was going to the hospital, and then headed to his place. The old man didn't say a word as we traveled. We went 3 stations further and walked deep into a quiet residential neighborhood. At the house, his friendly wife greeted us. I was led into a room with tatami mats and served tea. The host disappeared for a while and returned 30 minutes later with Buddhist prayer beads and a book of sutras. Sutras are sacred scriptures or chants used in Buddhism. He sat across from me, took a sip of tea, and spoke. "How are you even still alive? If it weren't for the strength of your guardian spirit, we would never have met." I started crying again. "You see," he continued, "I am the second son from the Sato family temple. Since I was a child, I've read sutras, watched my father, and eventually began to see and hear things hidden from ordinary people. But my power isn't that great. When you walked into that train car, I saw immediately that something very foul had latched onto you. If I tried to face it head on, it would devour me in an instant." He explained that his older brother could have handled it, but he had passed away, and the current heir to their temple was useless. "At first, I wanted to pretend I didn't notice you," he admitted. "You think this is all about that man who fell. But in reality, you should be afraid of what killed that man. His fall was no accident. This entity, wanted him to fall directly on you and kill you," the old man said. "That's how it works. It kills, consumes, and grows stronger. When a creature like that gets into a frenzy, it kills indiscriminately, and its scent was all over you." But something had seemed strange to him. The monster's shadow was weak, like a fragment. It turned out my guardian spirit was using every ounce of its strength to hold back the entity's influence. Your guardian is so busy with that big fish that it has no energy left for that small fry ghost, the man who died. That's why he's been putting you through hell. Now we can exorcise that man and break your connection with that horrific thing. That I can do. He told me that leaving someone who could still be saved was a sin. I sat there with my mouth open, swallowing my tears. "To put it simply," he explained, "a monster is hunting you. It's desperately reaching for you, but because of a barrier, it can't see you clearly or grab you firmly. It has only hooked you with the tip of its finger and is trying to pull you closer. The barrier is your guardian spirit. The finger is that man in your dreams. And the connection is the monster's very knowledge that you exist. While the barrier still stands, we need to cut off that finger and hide you. Then the monster will give up and look for other prey. His words were surprisingly logical. He placed his prayer beads in my hands and chanted sutras for nearly 2 hours. When he finished, he said, "These beads belong to my father. They are very precious to me, but I am lending them to you. Wear them. Do not take them off for even a second. As long as you have them, even that monster won't be able to sniff you out easily." He gave me strict instructions. I had to visit him on the first of every month so he could check if the connection was finally severed. And most importantly, I was never to go near the spot where the man died. The exorcised spirit will likely return there, he warned. And that entity is certainly prowling nearby. If you go there, no beads will save you. This time, the monster was just testing you. It wasn't serious yet. It thought it would kill you easily, but it met unexpected resistance from your guardian and backed off. But if the prey that escaped walks right back into its claws, it will grab you for real. I won't be able to help you then. In fact, it will use you to come for me. We will all die. Finally, he told me that once the connection was gone, I must try to forget. Oblivion is the best medicine. I followed Mr. Sato's instructions and went home. From that night on, the man stopped appearing in my dreams. To be precise, I still see him occasionally, but if I wake up and go back to sleep, the dream vanishes. This happens very rarely now. I wear the beads constantly. At first, when I went to bed, I even taped them to my wrist with Scotch tape so they wouldn't accidentally slip off. A week after that incident, I quit my job. I moved back to my hometown and found work at a small local firm. I obediently traveled to see Mr. Sato once a month. Last month, he finally announced that I was safe. I returned his father's beads, and in exchange, he made me a new pair. I still don't take them off at night, though I don't use the tape anymore. The old man told me I don't need to visit him anymore, but I've decided I'll keep checking in on him for the rest of his days.